Well, welcome everybody to the next episode, and I believe this is the 5th episode of the HPLS Podcast, where we talk all high performance and help you achieve the dreams that you want to achieve and achieve the outcomes you're looking for. You know, today is a very special day because I've got, for the first time in pretty much anything I've ever done with HPLS, I've got a non-transportation and logistics individual with me. And in case you've, I don't know where you'd be to not know who this man is, but in case you don't, it's Marques Ogden. Marques is an ex-NFL player, international best-selling book author. He speaks on stages. He's a speaker. He's a trainer. He's an educator. And Marques, I just want to say thank you for being here. I don't want to get into too much. I'll let you kind of explain where you came from. And then I really want to get into some high-performance habits, high-performance things that you've done in your life, so we can reflect it back to a lot of the transportation and logistics salespeople out there that watch and listen to this podcast. So thanks for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me on, Dan. I really appreciate it. And I love how you have that parallel tying back to your audience. That's a very good thing to do. It's a great way to get your business going. And that's why you're so successful at what you do.
Welcome to the HPLS Podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. Oh, well, thank you, my friend. You know, when it comes to parallels, it's funny because for all of you listening right now, Marques and I were just kind of going back and forth for I think literally probably 45 seconds before we started rolling the cameras on kind of what were we going to talk about. And you know, when it's funny because as we were non-scripted and everything kind of just rolls, I find the conversation takes on a life of its own, really. And we're talking parallels. I mean, everything that we do at HPLS is directed to helping a salesperson achieve high performance.
Right.
What do you, I mean, you know, obviously you were at the top of games when it comes to NFL. Elite athlete, healthy, you know, vibrant, energetic. I mean, none of those things come without educating yourself and continually striving for excellence. Am I right?
That's correct. You know, I played in NFL for almost 6 years. My brother played for 12 years. And I've been around some phenomenal coaches, players, and everyone who's been in the NFL for any long period of time. The high performance comes from that elite mindset. If you don't have the elite mindset to push through adversity, to hear no and not let it discourage you, to, you know, continue to move forward, people are saying, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? That is really where high performance comes from. It's your elite mindset, which is why, Dan, a lot of people who are high performing, they do take care of themselves. They are healthy. They are cognizant. They're always wanting more advice. They never stop learning because they realize if they stop learning, then they start dying. So it all comes from that mindset and also the ability to create a very high winning, high performance culture where everyone that you're around and that's around you picks up and transcends that culture you have, into their being.
So a lot of it then, you know, comes from that energy, that dynamic when you're with people and you're feeding off people, right? Is that, you know, in essence, I guess that goes back to what a lot of people say, where you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you're around people who are high performing, have a lot of accountability, know how to create value consistently, you'll pick up their habits. If you're around people who are lazy, who don't want to take accountability, that don't want to strive for greatness, you'll become mediocre. Like, the more I'm around people who are high performing, that push me, I push them, the more we all excel. And that's exactly why, Dan, my construction business, it had a lot of success in its fruition. But near the end, when I lost some of my best people who were driving that high performance, within 6 months after that, I ended up losing that business.
You know, it's amazing that you went there, because part of what I kind of in the back of my head, I was thinking, you know, I want to talk to Marques about this because, I mean, I know we were going a little bit back and forth on social media, and I shared with you when you were talking about success and failure and mindset, I shared with you how I literally went from a $20 million company to a $300,000 company in like 9 months. because I was the driving force of the company. I was the operating partner, and I literally lost all desire, all belief in the transportation and logistics industry, which I'd only ever known. Like since I was 17, I've been in this industry. It's the only industry I've known. And I just lost. And I mean, I'm in the middle of having a house, a wife, a kids, things to care for, and just lost interest completely. And it's amazing how long it takes you to build something compared to the time it takes you to destroy it or for it to disintegrate, when that mindset, when that belief system, when that structure, when that vision is gone.
Right. Well, once your vision is gone, it's just a matter of time before the actual company in reality is gone. If you don't have a shared vision and or accountability structure with your partner, if you have one, your team, your trusted leaders, if you don't have that accountability there that's shared between everyone, that vision of achieving greatness, it is literally the beginning of the end of the organization. And that's exactly what happened to me. We went from an 8-figure business to bankrupt and doors closed because we lost that vision and we lost those important team members who were high performing, driving an excellent culture, because I was the reason that they left, because I became a horrible boss instead of a very considerate leader.
Got it. I want to go back to that parallel, because what you said there is essential when you were talking about like your high performing teammates, that really, because in essence, anyone that works with you is a teammate, right? I want to take it back a step further, because I really want to focus on that parallel between sales and high performance. So like any sales, right? We as salespeople go out, we start closing accounts. We have this structure, we have this vision, this ideal that we're working at. And then we go out and we start closing accounts. And then what typically happens, like pretty much in every career in sales, you hit a plateau, right? And there's kind of that plateau you get, and whether that plateau be your education level, the skill level that you've adopted until that point, and you've decided not to level up, I guess, for lack of a better term, or you set back, you take your foot off the gas, right? You ease back. And I want you to share and relate it back to your career in the NFL, because to be the elite of the elite, does that foot have to be to the floor all the time? Or is there a point where you can kind of pull it off and half gas it in order to continue that growth?
No, in the NFL, you have to have that foot on the gas at all times. You cannot pull it off, because if you do, there are other players that are younger, cheaper, that are going to have their foot and their pedal to the metal, and they're coming for your job. And it's important. And again, I don't care if you're Tom Brady, if you're Peyton Manning, if you're Ray Lewis, it doesn't matter. You understand the minute that foot comes off the gas and you're on that field, you are doomed and more likely to get hurt. So you have to keep that high performance, that high excellent mentality drive. If you don't, you're going to end up putting yourself in a position where you will either fail or get hurt. And that's just the way it is. Same thing in sales. If you take your foot off the gas in sales, someone else is going to try to go get that account. If you become complacent, if you become, oh, I'm the best game in town, I'm the juggernaut, I spoke for a client, real big client, and they talked about how they want to continue to add value and to really continue to grow their renewal business, because they had a really down quarter this past quarter. But again, they always talk about, how are we growing market share? How are we creating value for the customers? How are we setting ourselves apart from the competition? Are we assessing our resources? Are we having a strategic plan? Are we doing a tactical plan? So in football, it's the same thing as in sales. If that foot comes off the gas, someone else is coming to take over your market share. So
let's talk then, individual salesperson, that's watching right now. Let's say, as we in the trucking industry, and I'll, if please, by all means, if you understand this concept, then stop me immediately, because I don't want to waste any time here, but in the trucking industry, we're typically the first to feel an economic slowdown, and we're the first to feel when the economics start rising, right? Because if you do a 360, everything you see, touch, taste, or usually smell has touched a truck, right?
Yep.
Even the grass on your front lawn, it's probably touched a truck at one point in time as a seed or dirt or whatever. So, I mean, the engine of the world economy is trucking and logistics. 90% of all products in the world touch a steamship, a freight ship at some point in time. And so, I often have conversations with salespeople and I say, really, you got to continually set that next goal as you're accomplishing this next one, because like you said, as soon as you lose vision, you lose that intensity for that goal, things go wrong. They go sour, they dip, they slide. You start hitting into the ebbs instead of the nice flows, and that vibration in you changes. What would you suggest to salespeople right now that are saying, yeah, but you know what? I've had such a for lack of a better term, shitty 2019. It's a really soft market. How do I keep my head up and keep desiring to go?
What you have to do is you have to set yourself apart, and you have to master the art of persuading people to give you their business. People are always the same. They want to feel special and treated like they are a person, not a transactional sale. This dates back over 2,000 years, coming from Aristotle, about 5 keys to persuade people to want to work with you or be around you. Your character, your emotion, your reason, metaphors to relate to them, and being concise. If you are a salesperson right now who's had a bad year, look at those 5 keys. How has your character been shown to clients that you're trying to solicit? Where's your passion and excitement when trying to get that business? What reason are you giving that potential customer to take business from someone else to give to you, or to keep you as their business person? How are you relating to them? And are you wasting their time with inefficient, non-value driven information? If you can assess those things and go to the drawing board and come back in 2020 and look at what you're doing now versus what you were doing last year, it will help you greatly. That has helped my business. And don't forget, man, I was in construction. I was a site work contractor. So everything came in trucks, my stone, dirt, utilities, trench boxes, everything, 7 erosion control, everything I had touched a truck. So I'm very familiar with how when the economy is hot, man, you can make a ton of money. When it's not, man, you could be not making money. But again, if you're a trucker who is talking to me or my company and you did those 5 keys and showed me that I was a value, respected person and a customer, and not just a here today, gone tomorrow transaction, I guarantee you were going to get and keep my business.
I'm really glad you went there, because, a lot of what we hear from customers is, yeah, you're calling me all the time until you get my business, then I'll probably never hear from you again. And,
right.
What would you say to any salesperson that came to you and said, Marques, I want to figure out a way to continually be in front of my customer even after I make the sale. However, obviously my time is limited. I'm, as you grow more and more on your business, there's more and more people that want to chew away and eat at your time. If you can give us kind of 3 strategies that you would use to any people you were coaching to say, listen, you want to stay in front of them all the time, try these things.
Okay, so there's 3 things you could do, right? There's 3 types of marketing. There's email marketing, face-to-face marketing, and social media. What you need to do is set up a strategy and or schedule to do one of those 3 things, either bi-weekly or monthly, to stay in front of that client. Again, there are 3 ways. You can email them, you can do this, then you can social media them, or just go have a drink or meet face-to-face briefly, stop by their office, whatever the case may be. But if you can set yourself up on some type of a schedule right? To stay in front of a client. Again, not harassing, not being there all the time, but just doing, like I said, bi-weekly or monthly, some sort of touching them. Email, face-to-face, social media. Just a quick stop, check in. Hey, how are you? How are things coming along? Do you need anything from us? It takes you less than 5 seconds. It really does. It doesn't take long. But that genuine, continual, consistent checking up on that client makes them feel special, and they know that if something goes wrong, they can count on you being there. And that's the difference, Dan, between people who start a business and people who actually grow an empire. You have that consistent high performance mentality to stay in front of your clients without bugging and harassing them.
So when I go to stay in front of my clients, and I'd love your validation or lack thereof validation on the following. I've always told all of my students, anyone that ever comes to me for advice, anyone I've ever sat with, when you go to your clients, always ask the questions, what am I doing right? What can I do better? How can I serve you better? What is coming down the pipe that you think you might want? I also suggest to everyone I speak to, not even just my students, make sure you talk in specifics in your conversations, because you're going to find articles, you're going to find posts, you're going to find videos, you're going to find all sorts of things that relate back to that conversation. So, for example, as we're approaching 2020 now, we have something in the freight and logistics world called IMO 2020 coming out. And that's where bunker fuel, which is fuel for the big ships, is now going to 0.3% sulfur, right? So it was like an 87% decrease in sulfur. And what's happening is the manufacturing of it, the refining of it is so closely related to diesel. There's a big scare of diesel prices kind of shooting through the roof. And not only that, the new bunker fuel, the low sulfur bunker fuel, is going to go up in cost. So when I was still working with clients prior to opening HPLS, as soon as I heard about it, I read a few articles, and I sent those articles to customers of mine that were shipping overseas, saying, you really need to look at this. If not today, start paying attention to it, because you need to speak to your steamship, the MSCs, the Hapag-Lloyds, all the Zims of the world. And you really need to find out what impact this is going to have on 2020 on getting your stuff over, because if you see a $300 increase, $400 increase per container, divide that by the amount of pieces in the container, your cost just went up, right? So based on those two strategies, that's something you would suggest as well when salespeople connect with customers is, hey, you said email marketing, email, you said touch points, face-to-face or over phone, and also social media. So maybe send those articles out with kind of a tag, hey, you really should read this, or, keep that customer educated. What do you think about those strategies?
I think it's phenomenal. It's kind of like part of the email. You can send that as part of the email. You're sending them an email. You can put in, hey, just want to check up on you. Oh, by the way, I read this article you should check out. Again, back to the metaphors, telling them stories or lingo that is very relevant to their business. Great strategy. It's like, again, people hire us, right? They, you, me, anybody, for what? To create efficiency and value, and to save them time. That's what it's for. If you're saving people time, making them money, and creating strategies for them, they will come to you every day, twice on Sunday. So your example is perfect. Dropping some type of link for an article, some type of link for something that you read, anything like that to help educate that client to a higher level and show the value, and that they are very important to your business. That's going to go a long way. So
on top of that, I want to ask you about and kind of relate back to your rise to the heights that you reached in your career. So, in sales, obviously, just as transportation sales, you hear no every day. I've often shared, and I'm a firm, irrevocable belief of, if this is your career, got to be dedicated. You got to love what you do. You got to believe in your product, So when you were coming up to become the elite of the elite, both, let's talk your book, Let's talk your speaking and coaching career. Let's talk, when you go in and consult the companies. I mean, you're at a very, very, one of the highest elite levels. How much dedication comes with that? And how difficult was it along some of the journeys you've had to maintain that belief system, right? Like, you go back, even let's talk about your NFL career for a minute before we go into business. There points in your career where it was like, damn, am I really going to make this? Like, how much do I need to push? How do I need to, and this is your career. This is the rest of your life, right? In essence, when you were going for the NFL, that was the rest of your life at that point in time, right? I mean, since then, you've obviously created a whole other life with the NFL kind of in the background. But share with us and to the audience and to everybody, that process, some of those challenging times and some of those, holy crap, am I really going to make it kind of times, to help them reflect back that maybe what they're feeling right now is just normal.
It's very normal. I remember my rookie year, I was practicing and I got beat for 6 sacks in practice by one of my teammates. And I got beat for the first sack. I said, man, this is not good. And then he said, oh man, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to go slow down on you. I'm going to go easy on you. Then I said, I kind of pulled my foot off the gas. Got beat for a second sack. I said, man, I'm going to go full force here. And then what happened is that I got frustrated. I got pissed off. I got mad. And I stopped playing reasonably. And I got emotional, not cognitive. And once that happened, it was the beginning of the end for that practice. Got beat for 4 more sacks, 6 total. And I remember Jack Del Rio telling me, Marcus, you have a choice. Come out tomorrow, take your head out of your ass, play smart, play fast, play hard, and show us you can rebound. Or keep your head in the sand, be upset, be a baby, and be emotional, come out here, get beat again, and then downgrade your stock and prepare to go home. Your choice. And that's when I said, man, I have got to be more cognitive, think things through. What did I do wrong? How can I position myself? How can I position my stance, my body, my alignment? And I stopped being emotional, saying, man, he got me. I'm just going to go take his head off. And I had no plan. So once I calmed down and became more confident, developed a plan, from then on out, I ended up having a 6-year career. And that was a real point for me. That was like one of my breaking points. I could have either had a really bad another week and would have never got my career started and would have been finished. So that's a huge remembrance in my life where it also applies to my career as a speaker or coach, because for 2.5 years, Dan, I didn't get one paid job. 30 months told no every single time. And then I look back at it today, I was so much into talking to people about me, what I've done, what I've been, without telling them how I can help them. That's what I was doing on for 2.5 years. And today I'm all about the value I can offer people. Of course, what I've been through, but positioning myself, if I can help create value for you, I would love to help you. If I can't, I understand. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you are massively successful. And that's where in people today, high performers understand how to be cognitive. People who are not high performing, man, they get emotional and they end up just getting very much upset. And again, this is business, it's not personal. So that's what I had to learn. But being cognitive then and now versus emotional has played a huge part in where I am today.
I wrote that down immediately. I love that emotional versus cognitive idea. That is amazing, especially in the sales world, because it does, right? We hear no all the time, every day. I found especially, and I'd love your take on this, when I first started my career, it was like, okay, I want to make money, right? And I was blessed. I was very successful right at the beginning of my career. But I'll tell you one thing, I didn't have any love for it. I just thought I got the gift of gab. I may as well use it to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, that brought saying anything to make the sale, right? And I can vividly remember conversations, Marcus, where I would close the account and my ops team would go, how do you expect us to do this? I go, I don't care. That's not my job. My job is to close the account. Your job's to keep it. So go do your job. And like, I mean, it sickens me that I acted like that, but the reality is I did, you know. And for me, when when you said that, it was when I didn't get the sales closed, I didn't get too emotional about it. I found when I started getting emotional is when I started really believing, and to my core, believing that when a customer says, I'm not interested, I'm doing them a disservice. And it was, I can't convince them. Why can't I convince them to work with me? Like, they don't understand what I can do for them. And that emotional part came out, and not really knowing or even consciously understanding that emotional cognitive break, where I started to really find success and where I started to scale quick, was actually when that, and it just kind of hit me as you were speaking, was really when that emotional aspect of it left. It was business. I put on a flak jacket when I walked in, for lack of a better term. Maybe I should probably find a more positive thing to use. Maybe I put on a sport coat when I went in instead of a flak jacket. But I put that on, and when I left, I took it off. And it was, okay, this is what I have. This is what I could do. This is what I really want to find out, if I could serve you and I could be of value. No, thank you. Okay, have a great day. And then you kind of move on. And I started to really share with everyone that, have a customer profile. Have that idea of the individual you want to work with. Understand what you can do and where your value is in the market, and figure that out and qualify that individual as quick as possible to achieve or to see that there is that value, and then have that conversation. Because would you not agree that approach is probably where most salespeople sit, in that emotional end as opposed to the cognitive end? And secondary to that, Marques, what can they see as the difference? I mean, it'll be a world of difference, I know that, when they switch to that cognitive approach.
When a salesperson is getting rid of the emotional approach, that's when they're going to have success. Because again, when you quantify a situation, give a quality product, and you know that your value is there for the client, that is a major step in the right direction. Versus looking at it like, oh man, why couldn't I convince them? Man, why couldn't I get this done? Why couldn't I get that done? And that's because you're emotional and you're looking at how I didn't get something done, versus like, well, maybe I didn't give enough value, or maybe I didn't really see what their problem was. I didn't answer their questions. I don't know. Be very just positive in your approach, and don't take it personal. Once you do that, Dan, that's when you're going to be seeing a lot more success and a lot more referrals to your business, for sure.
So what would you say to any salesperson right now, if you were to take the top, call it 5 things that every salesperson should have kind of in their toolbox? And I'm talking things like getting real good at scheduling, having a coach, having, obviously one of my big things is, before you pick up any phone, before you have any interaction, you have a goal for that interaction. Because how are you going to measure any success if you have no idea where you want to go? You know what I mean? I mean, there's so many different variations of that, like you always get in your car and you know where you're going before you get in your car. And that's the reason GPS exists today, because here's where I am, here's where I want to go. How do I get there? Right. So we can go back and forth that, but if you can kind of give your top 5 that have helped you go from, and for lack of a better term, like a regular guy to an elite athlete, right? Or from an athlete to an elite athlete, from a person that decided to leave an athletic career, start a construction company, go from a beginning company to a very successful company, back down to a dissolved company like mine, and then started to say, okay, I'm going to go for another thing. I'm going to go and be a best-selling author. I'm going to go and be one of the best, coaches and trainers and consultants in the world. What are kind of top 5 things that you can share that are going to be universal that helped you get where you are, and that can help anyone listening kind of get where they are?
Number 1 is have a victory mindset. If your mindset is not strong and you're not prepared to endure and persevere through the adversity, don't even bother. So that's number 1. Number 2, hire a coach, someone that's doing what you're wanting to do. Someone that has the ability to train you in how, like you said, know what you want to get accomplished. That is so key. Because like you said, if you don't know what you're going to want to get accomplished, how can you measure anything? Number 3 is start to do a lot more reading in society today. Read, get information, That is what has been one of the biggest things in my career days. I've done a lot more reading these last few years. I've educated myself, picked up some great ideas. That's how we met, about the book I was reading, Brendan Bouchard. It's all about educating yourself to a higher level, because once you stop learning, you start dying. Number 4, take care of your health. If you're not fit, if you're not doing things, if you're not active, if you're not keeping sharp, your mind will start to get dull. And when your mind starts to get dull, the body will follow. And number 5, always, like Steve Jobs said, learn to take advice from your trusted circle. That is what I did not do with my construction company. In football, that led to my demise several times, and it almost put me in a situation where I was homeless because I stopped listening to people, because I got emotional and I did not process what they were saying to try to help me grow.
You kind of took it as you're trying to beat me down instead of help me see things
Right.
from perspective and get it. I see that. I see, I see that as part of, the ego. I see that as part of, how I can see that would be tough for you. I mean, you're an elite NFL athlete, right? You're supposed to be this know-it-all big individual. It's funny. I go back to, I was listening to something from Tony Robbins, and he says, was it Tony or Brendan? I forget. Anyways, he says, guys, you got to understand, like, these elite athletes, they're masters at being an athlete in that field, but they're also financial. Like, in order to be super successful, you got to really understand finances. They really have to understand health. They really have to understand physiology and how the body moves and the inner workings of the body and what food does to the body. I mean, so, it's not just I'm an athlete and I'm going to go do this. LeBron, I think the last I heard, LeBron spends almost $1 million a year on health and himself, like getting massages and having physiotherapists and people that kind of stretch his body and do everything, because he understands that physiology is the longevity for his career, right? And as a salesperson, I'm looking at these 5 and I'm saying, adversity mindset, absolute adversity mindset. Yeah. So, eliminating that adversity and saying to themselves, my mindset has to be a high performance mindset. I'll let all the no's go to the wayside. If I get 50 no's, but 1 yes, I'm going to focus on that yes, right? That focus, that high performance focus mindset. And, I look at it and say, hire a coach. Okay. Well, all of these major, elite in the world, no matter what they do, they all have coaches.
Have a coach. I have coaches.
Absolutely. There's 0 Olympic athletes that don't have a coach. Most of them have 3 or 4.
That's right.
When you were on an NFL team, it wasn't just the coach of the NFL team. You guys had other coaches for other areas. Am I right or wrong?
You're correct.
Yeah. So, and then, start to do a lot more reading. I mean, it's exactly where you and I met, because I saw your post and I was like, oh my God, I got to show you my book.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And take care of your health, obviously, 100%. I mean, you know what, if we're lethargic and we have no energy to come at the day with full vibrancy, full energy, full joy, full excitement, full enthusiasm, we're done. You're done. And then you learn to take advice from your inner circle. That I think is a big one for people to swallow. I often, it's funny because, you ever been in a football pool where the person who knows nothing about football, and she's like, well, a dolphin is faster swimmer than a tiger can run, so I'm going to go for the dolphin, and the dolphin wins, right? It's kind of that, and so I look at that and I say, learn to take advice from your inner circle. And I think back and I think to how many people, when I look at it from a different angle, were trying to help. And I actually thought they were trying to veer me off a path that I thought I knew I was on. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It's difficult because like you said, it's when you're having to take advice from people, you have to open up to the fact that your way may not be the right way. And that's okay, because we don't know everything. We want to know everything, but it's not going to happen. So if you don't have a strong inner circle, you are in a lot of trouble. Point blank.
I'm not sure if it was before we started recording or after, but we had said, the second you think you know how to, make that backhand all the time and there's nothing else to learn, you're going to lose Wimbledon. Right?
I just saw where Serena lost in Wimbledon. And Serena is a phenomenal athlete. And again, nothing with her, but the person that she ended up getting beat by literally just played a game above and beyond. And there's nothing wrong with what she did. But like you said, as we start to move into our circle, as we start to progress and try to figure out ways to always be our best, if we cannot learn and move and adapt and everything else, then we're in a lot of trouble. It's just the way life is. But if you think you know everything, you've already lost.
I love that. I love that. Well, in closing here, is there anything that you would suggest to, again, the market that we're talking to? And I mean, listen, I'm going to call it the entire sales market, because when this goes out, a lot of salespeople that aren't necessarily in transportation and logistics will listen to it. They'll hear it, both through your network and my network. What would you share to people right now as we're sitting, what are we, 2.5 weeks away from 2020? Can you give us a couple of key points that you'd say, in order to make 2020 the most impactful, the most energetic, the most enthusiastic year you've ever had, what do you suggest they do?
I'm going to suggest they follow a 5-step process. Number 1 is they need to identify their ideal client. Number 2, they need to connect with that client authentically. Number 3, listen to that client genuinely. Number 4, create real value for that client, not for you, for that client. And number 5, create a diligent follow-up system so that client knows that they are a real person and not just a transaction. If you can do those 5 things in the world of sales, man, you give yourself the best chance to succeed.
I'm gonna add to that if I can.
Of course.
Put a plan in place to do it daily. Take action every day. Because as a salesperson, yeah, I think I'm gonna go snowmobiling today. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for a 4-hour lunch. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go golfing. I think daily action. And I often share with people, and I know we're on the same page here, where block off 2-3 hours a day, uninterrupted. Put an out of office on your email. Like we're sitting here having our conversation. My phone's on do not disturb. Everything's off on my computer. I'm not looking at email. I'm fully present. We're in this conversation. Take 2-3 hours of your day, because in essence, in reality, there's no salesperson on the planet that sells for 8 hours a day. Let's be realistic, right?
Absolutely.
We have downtime. We have things we're doing. We have conversations, whether that be water cooler or real in-depth conversations like this one, right? We got things we do. So I've often said to salespeople, reserve 3 hours a day, even 4 hours, half your day of just sales, like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, in the afternoon, right? And just do it. Do yourself that favor, because you get into that pattern and it becomes that habit, right? We talk about high performance habits, how you and I met, Brendan Burchard's book. It's that habit of every day, 10 to 12, 2 to 4. I'm making sales calls and I'm growing my business. You create a diligent follow-up system. That's a diligent follow-up system. 4 hours a day, you're going to be able to follow up and make new sales calls with everybody. And really, for all of you listening, you're going to create a dynamic, impactful, and one of the most energetic 2020s you've ever seen.
Amen. Couldn't agree with you more, my friend.
Well, my friend, I thank you for being on. I'm super stoked that we connected, and that we're going to have many, many, many more conversations, my friend. I guarantee you that.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, just focus on 2020 with consistent daily actions, moving the needle towards your goal, and don't look at no as a door shut. Look at no as a next opportunity or your next offer you can make to achieve greatness.
Thanks, everybody. Again, thanks for being here, Marques. I really appreciate it, my friend. For all of those of you listening and watching, remember, go out there, make every call an educational one, and crush your sales, my friend. Take care, everybody.